Hi, it's Lynette Zanders. Brand You is about prepping for liberation. I always say that security is a myth, and the only real security you have is having a card and a website about you incorporated that you could flip a switch and turn on in a heartbeat. So if this is an alter career, or it's just prepping for future, or if you're already an entrepreneur or a leader and you want to hone your brand, then welcome. Okay, so Brand You, there's just a couple of philosophies. I believe that you need to know what you want and design your life accordingly, or know what works for you and design your life accordingly. A Brand You is also a lightning rod for what you want more of. It's a way to transition your alter career to full-time. It's a way to focus your work, a way to make vacation money, maybe eradicate debt. And again, it is the only real form of security. For established leaders, it's about prepping for next. Champions are made in the off season, and there will always be a next. If you love what you do. So it's good to have. It absolutely cannot hurt you. But I think it provides clarity, because life and business are inextricably intertwined, and brand is where it meets in the middle. So a couple things that I'm going to walk you through. There's feeding the machine, defining North Stars, creating culture, making it real, and then igniting momentum. And there will be another part, at least one other part to this, about how you write your bio on LinkedIn, how you use social, how you become a thought leader. That's going to be step 2, or Brand You 2. But this is really setting it up. It's starting at ground zero. And even if you've had your own business for a long time, I would invite you to do the work and go through the steps. If you only do what you've always done, you'll only get what you've already got. So feeding the machine. Businesses, brands have to make money. And I think what keeps some people from embracing being an entrepreneur, or embracing putting themselves out there and not having a paycheck, is not knowing about the money side. So I like to start there. If you follow the money, the pride, and the love, you'll never go far wrong. So what I do want to say as we get into this is you are a leader. You are the leader of your own company. You may lead other people right now, but I think it's a little bit different, because most people, most leaders, we'll call it C-suite, what they think they're doing doesn't match what they're actually doing, or I should say what they think they should be doing. So if there was a study done, and I don't have the details right here, but bear with me. I believe it was Harvard Business Review. But they asked CEOs how they spent their time, and they listed it all out. And then they followed those CEOs around. And what they found was what they wrote down about what they should be doing or thought they were doing had nothing to do with how they actually spent their days. So that's one piece of management. But I think it also starts with parenting yourself, being unbelievably disciplined, even if it is not your nature, or you believe it is not your nature. Parenting yourself, think about, what's the 5-second rule? Mel, I'll think of her. When you think to do something, should I get out of bed? Should I hit snooze? You have 5 seconds to make a decision. And it will change the course of everything. So if you can force yourself to do the hard thing, force yourself to do the right thing, and force yourself to do it right now, it's going to serve you very well. it was a neighbor of mine. I lived on Mount Hood in Oregon, and a neighbor of mine had this beautiful garden, and you know, you could walk down and see the view. And he had this sign that was creating an amazing garden is a lot like life. You do what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether you feel like doing it or not. And it's always, I think, we fear some of the tasks that we have. And as soon as we actually jump in and do them, they took 10 seconds and were not painful at all. The worry was much, or the procrastination was much heavier than actually just jumping in and doing it. But I also believe in organizing for efficiency. You can't take over the world if you can't find your keys. I always thought that efficiency killed creativity. And my first boss convinced me that efficiency actually fuels creativity, because you can steal time and energy from the things that don't matter and spend them on the things that do matter. And the other thing about leadership is inspiring people to want to do what you're asking of them. I always say it's like you have to get them to fall in love with the job. So just as a platform or a framework for what I believe about leadership, I also think every job in every company, but especially at a leader level, is strategic. Every job in every company is creative, and every job in every company requires sales. In order for you to succeed, you have to have a strategic piece, a sales piece, and a creative piece. I find that people don't accept the moniker of salesperson because of what it represents. If I get my, I've taught classes and done workshops, and I'll have one room of business people, and I might do another workshop with creative people. And I ask my business people to describe business people, and they say glowing things. I ask them to describe creative people, and they say not so nice things. I ask creative people glowing things about creative people. Ask creative people about my business people, not so nice things. I ask both groups how they feel about sales. Whoa, thanks, no, don't need that. But you're not going to do very well in business by yourself if you don't accept the fact that you are in sales. But I will tell you, how you feel about sales will determine how well you do at it. Sales is really just having conversations in order to help people make better decisions. And then asking them to cut you a check, which doesn't have to be smarmy. This is all relationship based. And if what you are providing them is actually of value, then it should not be difficult. If what you are offering them is not of value, that's a different conversation. But sales should be 80% listening, 20% talking. So ask them the right questions, actively listen, and be able to offer examples of what's worked for other companies, examples of how certain products or skill sets that you have could help solve their problem. So change how you feel about sales. I will say some of the really good words that I've heard, brave, decisive, thoughtful, engaged, charming. Find some salespeople in your memory. At companies, it's the rainmakers, the biz devs, people that go out and shake hands and get people to fall in love with your company. So see if you can mirror your behavior, but at least pay attention to your behavior. That how you approach it is going to be a huge determinant of how well you do. Business. So here's the thing about business. Everybody, says, well, I have my life and I have my work. When I ask them to do a happy meter, 1 to 10, where are you on that? They'll go, well, it depends, work or business. And I'm like, life, give me an average, because it's one bucket of time and energy. But the trick is really, and this is Harvard Business Review, the trick is to manage your energy more than your time. There are different types of work that we do better at different times of day or in certain places. So we'll dive into that in a bit. Business is always making stuff of value, having outputs. Clients tend to prefer to pay for things as opposed to time. So know what your outputs are. Being comfortable exchanging money for them, and making sure you have all of the incidental costs built in so that you don't undervalue. My women entrepreneurs, I'm talking to you. You want to be able to lure like-minded people, either people to work with you, people to work for you, people to hire you. And then it's making sure you do the right paperwork, which I'll give you another Stanism besides efficiency fuels creativity. Is I told him I was going freelance, and he said, after anything I can do to make you stay, which is always lovely. It's like, no, I got to go. And he's like, okay, excellent. Jump in with both feet. I have two pieces of advice. If your toes don't curl, you aren't asking for enough money, and get help. And you won't think you can afford help, but I know you well enough that you won't do your expense reports. You won't do the bookkeeping. You won't do the stuff you don't like to do. So hire it out. You will never be good at something that you don't enjoy. And you could make far more money with that time than the benefit of actually doing the paperwork. And I will jump ahead. I wrote a brief for what I wanted somebody to do for me. I listed all the stuff that I love, and I listed all the stuff that I don't love about my day-to-day, about my career, about places I'd worked, and the task list that I had. And when I had interns in the past, I would give them the fun stuff. I would give them the stuff to teach them to do what I do. Can't really make that work. I have not been able to make that work. What I needed to do, and what I actually finally did, was made a list of all the stuff I hated to do and put it on Craigslist. And I had multiple applicants. I found a lady who said, I will do all of this very happily, and I'll do it for $10 an hour, but please don't make me leave my house and go meet clients ever. It was like, deal. All I have on offer is flexibility. And I wanted a bookkeeper, and she wasn't a bookkeeper. I said, I will pay for your training. I will, like my current bookkeeper, teach you how to do it, but then you can never leave me. So she was my director of sanity for 15 years. She did my bookkeeping, my invoicing, my 800 number calls, returns, fulfilling books, booking my travel. She even bought American Girl doll clothes for my daughter when she was little, because I was traveling so much. I couldn't bear it. And she said it was the most fun she ever had. But a personal assistant is absolutely, I think, a requirement for you as an entrepreneur. So not only do you have permission, I'm going to say you must. And the key to actually making it not be more work, I believe, is to make a list of all of the things that you can delegate. Walk them through your list, and then they don't even necessarily have to touch base with you about, okay, what do you need me to do now? They just kind of batch their questions, and they get as far along as they can on your list, and then you touch base and you go through and you solve those problems, and then they go off and do next. So that's my advice for what it's worth. So you have a finite amount of quality time to do the work that's going to make you thrive. So how you spend it is critical. Again, clients don't like to pay for time. They prefer to pay for outputs. If you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I believe working for yourself is half the hours, twice the pay. And the entrepreneurial revolution has begun. When I started freelance, I was using dial-up, and I had to drive to town to send anything over 1 meg, and it was worth it, well worth it. So what I would like for you to do is make a task list or 3 lists actually, but I want you to think about how you spend your day, a typical day, a typical week, you know, as big or as little as you wish, but I find it's more helpful to be granular instead of saying reports. I mean, is there a certain part of reports you don't like? Is there a certain type of report you don't like? So go tiny. I want to know the things you love to do as part of your job. Could also be part of your work environment, meeting with other people, for example. I want you to list out the things that you hate. You know, for me, expense reports, booking travel, calling 800 numbers is kryptonite for my soul. So like make that list. And then probation's like, it depends, or it depends on my mood, or it depends how difficult it is, or things don't stay in probation forever. You actually have to test it out and go, do I love that or do I hate that? And if everything's on probation, then be more decisive about how you feel about things. And sometimes that takes some practice, like it's a muscle. If you pay attention to how you feel when you walk into wherever inspires you, you know, for me, it's art museums or stationery stores or art supply stores, bookstores, or beautiful hotel lobbies, you know, walking into the nines. You just kind of go, oh. So pay attention to that and try to put words to it. And then pay attention to how you feel when you walk into the DMV. Put words to that. So everything's kind of chutes and ladders. It's momentum resistance. It's attraction rejection. But knowing what you want in your inner circle and what it does for you, so you can do more of that, is important. Knowing what sucks the life out of you, when and where that happens, and how to get it out of your orbit is equally important. The other is pulling apart your, we'll call it your outputs. It's like if you're going to pack, go based on shoes. What are the outputs you can create? Are they all reports? Are they speeches? Are they recommendations on, you know, business strategy? So what are some ways you can make money? What are the things you can charge for? It's not so super terrifying. I hope this is like a 1-page you could print out and everything should hang together. Couple of things on here, and we'll get to it. We'll get to everything, but this is the orange part. This is the, what are my units of sale that are outputs that are ideally physical. And if you know, don't have a report at the end of an engagement, I would invite you to do so. I even do a summary email after a coaching session. Say, this is what we agreed, this is what you need to do. It's not like a barf notes. Nobody's going to go back and read it, but remind me what we agreed to, remind me of breakthrough ideas, remind me of what I have to do next. So think of 5 ways to make money. All these should be things that you love to do. If you hate it, but it actually pays all your bills, stick it in there, but put it on probation mentally. And Lions, if you already have a company, so this is a Nike framework, 80% of revenues come from 20% of products, and 80% of revenues come from 20% of clients. So figure out what those are, who makes up the most revenue, ideally the most revenue, and you love them and love the work. And then ideally, ones that have some marquee value. You know, having Nike on your resume has never hurt anybody. So focus on your Lions and what they want. And I'll get into lions, horses, and dogs. There's another video about that, but just focus on ones that you want more of. What do they buy from you? What do they want from you? So if you can make sure that's one of your units of sale, you're already ahead of the game. You know, then it's figuring out what you should charge for each. It's knowing what you need to make per month. So what's a thrive number and what's a survive number? How many of each do you need to do in order to make those numbers? And do you have enough hours in the day to make those numbers? So just doing the math. When I first went freelance, I learned to do it when I was in Canada. And I was paralyzed. I was so afraid of being homeless. And it's, valid. So I was like, in my mind, what can I do to make sure that that doesn't happen? How do I mitigate that risk? And I said, well, if I owned my home, then I could never be homeless. And I was like, well, that would take like 30 years. And I said, well, what would happen if I redefined home? Home is a place where I can sleep dry and warm, big enough for my Newfoundland and me, and I can lock it. So I technically defined a truck, an SUV. I don't mean to go on a tangent, but I will say I was very specific about the truck that I wanted. And I went to a broker and he said, lady, in 10 years, I've never seen this truck cross my desk, but okay, great. And then 2 days later, he called me up and said, I have your truck down to the color. I've never seen this before. So there's great power in writing things down. And that's on another video, but let me tell you, the other thing that paralyzed me is I didn't know how much to charge for what I did. So I actually had to sit down and do the math, and I really don't enjoy doing the math. And instead of, I said, okay, I need $5,000 a month just to make sure my basics are covered. So I was thinking about hourly. Oh my God, that's a lot. So I did my units of sale and realized that my clients paid for moderators separately. It was a line item. Actually, research was a line item that didn't come out of other budgets. So I thought, okay, all I need to do, if I can charge $2,500 a night, it's $1,250 per group. Prices have gone up, thank you. But this was at the time, mentally, I figured out if I got 2 nights of focus groups a month, I could pay all my bills. So if you look at 30 days and you're like, 2 nights, this I can do. So I encourage you to do the math and to make it feel doable. I need X number of these, I need Y number of those, and it's going to be some combination, but ballpark it. I know that you don't get paid every month. So I would estimate that it has to pay for your expenses for 2 months, especially if you work with agencies, nothing personal. You got to know who you want to work with. What are your ideal characteristics? My number one for clients is that they laugh with me. And that the second would be that they're grateful, that they say, hey, thanks, that was really nice. You get me to do just about anything for that. Know how you want to spend your time. And again, we're going to go through these. Know what you want to project. And know what you want to have happen, when this becomes wildly successful. Top of the line is once you have your units of sale, what's that kind of higher order common thread benefit? So I do research, I do branding, I do strategy, I do, it's a gig economy. I do a great number of things. But if I laddered that up to alchemy, which I did, which is turning lead into gold. It's turning something ordinary into extraordinary. It's that transformative X factor, if you will. And so it's not my name, Inc., because I want to be able to sell this one day, potentially, be able to. But, start thinking about what you do for people at a higher level, a magnetic virtue. What's the thing that you're really selling? Volvo makes cars, they sell safety. What's your safety? And then find a URL that kind of taps into some aspect of that. There's a whole kind of how-to, but if you own the URL, I'm going to say it's 90% of having a brand. And you don't have to have an LLC. I'm not a lawyer, but what my lawyer told me was that if you at least for a joint venture, if you want to work with somebody else, you don't need a partner. You can just do a memorandum of understanding. And it's a paragraph of who brought what into the, well, who's bringing what to the party and what are expectations. And it's a, what's the time frame of this memorandum? Say, we're going to try this for a month. I always say do a project, try it for a month. This is what we've agreed to. Both people sign it. And that is, she said, 90% of an LLC. So you can have lots of joint ventures without, I need a partner, or we need to create another LLC together. Messy, 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 messy. Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. Okay. So think about your day job. And this was, just me, because I want to be able to give you examples. When I worked for an agency, I ran a profitable department. I always got things done on time, and I did some great work. So I wanted to just unpack things that I've done and what I did well to see if there's something I could sell within that. Think about your primary skill. So I'm a little bit of a consultant, a little bit of a strategist, and again, I can do focus groups, which is also facilitating workshops. So we'll call it facilitation. What's an offshoot of what I do? Speaking, training, wrote some books. My secondary skills, I actually, that's how I made money at boarding school. I would write people's papers. I would cut their hair, and I rolled their joints. And those are my secondary skills. I can also pet sit. And I dabbled in photography. So if I wanted to dial that up, I could learn skills. I could make it a thing. I don't know how it ties to the rest of them. But at this point, it's like, these are things that I love that I could do that I think I could get paid for. So some of these are measurable and others need scope, but we're just unpacking. We're just pulling everything out of the closet to see if we can make an outfit. Know that there are 3 reasons to take a job or a new client. And especially if you're just starting, you're going to take whatever comes your way. And I'm unemployed at the beginning of every month. So sometimes I take things I shouldn't, rarely, but I at least know why I'm doing it if it's not a fit. So you have to know what's a good fit and what's not a good fit. And you are interviewing them as much as they are interviewing you. Because the flip side of lions are dogs, and dogs suck up all your time and energy. They make your life hell, and you rarely get paid for the pain and suffering, the pain in the ass tax. So if a client's going to pay you a ridiculous sum of money, this is going to pay, if it's going to pay your bills, even if you don't love it, it's a reason to take it, but know that's why you're taking it. If you love the people and or the category or the product, if it's a passion, then awesome, but know why you're taking that. If it's a passion that is not paying for your bills, you've got to be able to balance those two out. But no, ideally, you find an and. Oh, I make money and I love it. So see where everybody falls. And then I think you'll start to recognize opportunities and maybe manifest them that have all 3 of these. So they're going to make you money. You're going to love the work and the people, and it's going to look great on your resume and help you get more work. A lot of work is getting new work is networking and managing relationships and asking for, hey, do you know anybody who, could use some of this? So they won't usually do it without you asking, but I've rarely had someone go, oh, you're asking way too much. They're like, oh, yeah, sure. I don't know why they don't think of it, but you got to ask. Again, so know your lions. So take a minute across top types of work and across clients. Know where you make your most money. And if you haven't started this yet, imagine who your best client would be. What kind of company would they be? And what would you sell them that would make you the most money? And then check reality. Who do you currently love working with, and what do you love working on? So you either do an audit or you vision and imagine kind of how you would spend your days while making that money. And then which of those are going to convince other companies to hire you, either by referral or by the marquee value of their brand. And again, so build your ideal, and it's a lightning rod, or at least do the work and say, okay, who are my, God, if you have more than 3 lions, whew, bravo. But know who they are, and know that your lions tend to be very, very quiet. They will just one day go away if they aren't taken care of. And it's not that we ignore them, but dogs are squeaky wheels. Dogs will suck up your energy. They'll call you, they'll email you. They are screaming for your attention. So you actively have to quiet your dogs while you feed your lions. And I find this is a muscle. It's if you ride motorcycles or drive boats, or if you've skied trees, it doesn't matter if you haven't, but they're all the same. And if you talk to somebody who does those things, they will corroborate this idea, which is you have to train yourself to not focus on the obstacle, but to focus on where you want to go. So kayakers will, if they come upon an obstacle, they don't point to the obstacle, because guess what? Everybody's going to go where you point. Kayakers must point to safe passage. So, it's, if you see them go this way, that's like, okay, everybody go that way. They don't need to know what the thing is. They just trust that you're telling them to go elsewhere. Trees, if you say, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, guaranteed you're going to hit the tree. You have to go space, space, space. If you only look at spaces, you only find spaces. So that's kind of the same thing with dogs and lions. Lions are the space, dogs are the tree. Okay. So who are your best givers? And do you know who and what they are? And take them to lunch. So I've got this as a worksheet. Print it out, write them out. If you are part of a leadership team, I invite each person to do their own and then discuss it, because most of the time, the same client and the same products are in all 3 categories. And you need data, or you need to pay attention to suss this out. So a horse is an opportunity. Horses, this is purgatory. This is like probation. And you need specific strategies to find out if they are going to be a lion or if they are actually a dog in disguise. So again, this is an awareness task. And what you really just need to know from lions is, what do they value from you, and are you delivering? And do they know anybody? Okay, so I audited everything, and I was like, hey, I really love to do strategy. I really love training, and I really love moderating focus groups or facilitating. So these other ones really just didn't pay enough, or they were just a longer term plan than I needed at the time. So this is not forever. This is just right now. You can do this as often as you are barreling through. The more revenue streams, the merrier. So this is again, lions. Are you offering them enough? Are you charging enough? Are you asking their opinions enough? Are you asking for referrals enough? And I would, with these, things that you can do, I would run them by your lions and say, did you know I did these things? What do you think this, the value might be to you? So get their opinions. They will, God, I'm going to say, I can't imagine that they would not help you. They've always helped me more than I could have dreamed possible. But align your strategy with getting input. I'll say every job that I've ever done for every client I've ever had has involved a discovery element. And if I could guess what people say I would be the richest planner in the country, in the world. But people amaze me, and I am amazed by how I cannot put myself in certain people's shoes. People who, why do they buy this particular brand of wine? Why do they vacation at this particular place? So always ask and make sure that you're basing your plans on real world. Okay, so I want you to describe ideal clients. I want you to describe an ideal gig. So I call it, this is a different kind of brief than I typically, but it's a 10 must-haves. Okay, so my ideal client would be, XYZ. My ideal gig for a client would be XYZ. And just have it must-haves. So I have written a brief for a house. I have written a brief for a dog. I've written a brief for a partner. Look at brief for love if you want to get into that. But it's an awareness challenge, and it will become what you can focus your attention on instead of the problem or don't have. So worksheet, because I like worksheets. And this is just to give you an example. So these are my briefs. Client shows appreciation, client laughs with me, told you those, they pay me quickly, they let me do my thing, I don't like micromanaging. They ask versus tell, they don't bring drama to my life, they're surgical with my time. They're super fun, they're smart, and they become friends. I call them client friends. They give me access upward to decision makers. They don't guess, they'll ask me, should we do this? Hey, I had this idea. Hey, I haven't, gotten approval on a methodology yet because I'm going to let you design that. Thank you very much. And I want them to help me make sure they fight for the right thing. An ideal gig is a juicy problem to solve in a passion category. It's a good brand or a good product. I can fix it if I have one of the two. It feeds me well. I'm not going to bleed from the eyes that I just hate it, that it's boring or awful or spreadsheets. I want them to allow for fresh solutions. Don't make me do same old. Allows for worthy conversations. My ideal gig has onboard decision makers, has tangible creative outputs, and has a very organized driver, which is kind of in client, but you can see there, they zipper. But if you don't ask, you don't get. So write it down. Okay, so now who do we want to work with and how do we want to spend our time? This is a time mapping. And this was done by a graphic designer at Wyden, which is why it's so anal and pretty. And this is a perfect example. I've always said that a 10-degree shift is more powerful than a 180-degree one. So this is literally will show you 10-degree shifts that she made to change her world. So she had a great job at Wyden in Portland, and she had a side hustle, a freelance business. And she said, I'm miserable. And so this was her current day in her life. She's like, I sleep, I gotta walk the dog, tick, 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 tick. I work. And then my husband and I carpool. So at 5 o'clock, until he gets off work and comes to get me, in that 5 to 7 time, I'm just waiting for him. And that's plucking my nerves a little bit. So again, I made it right. I said, pay attention to how this wheel, this accurate daily visual makes you feel. She's like, I'm frustrated. And I'm frustrated because I'm waiting. And then I go home and I'm trying to watch TV, but I also have to do chores. So I don't really enjoy the watching TV. And I don't, chores take me forever. So she said, okay, I'm making 2 shifts. I am going to tell my husband not to pick me up until 7 p.m. no matter what. So my 5 to 7 p.m. is my freelance time. I'm going to design. And then when I get home, I'm going to get all my chores done immediately. And then I'm going to sit down and enjoy my TV. And I've talked to her afterwards. She was like, it's made a monstrous difference. Just those little shifts. And you get your chores done in the time that you have set aside to do them. or just prioritize, or get a housekeeper, because everybody's got to eat. And similar to getting help is getting help. It's you could make much more money in the time that you are spending cleaning your house. And I have to have a clean house, but God help me, who has time to do all of it? Especially if you're doing well. Okay, we're going to do the math. How much do you need to survive? And how much do you want to thrive? And I tend to do this in monthly increments. It makes it easier for me to know if I've hit those numbers. It's easier for me to know, how much I need to hustle in a month. Because I still, mortgage is due on the 1st. So my life is run by that. But know your numbers. Mine ballpark. So again, to survive, I mentioned 5,000 a month, cover my bills. But boy, if I made 15, and this is where I define my ideal, I would be eating sushi, sleeping in, playing hooky several times a month without worrying about my checking account balance. And again, these numbers can change, but do the math and identify, okay, if you had it, then what? What do you get if you do it? So set your goals, know your cost of goods sold. How much is it going to cost you to do what you do? There are people that I have to pay because I'm not a recruiter. I have to pay incentives. I got to factor in my taxes every damn time. So figure whatever you estimate, figure you're going to make 40% of that. So track your time. I would say get an app just for the first 3 jobs or 2 weeks to know really how long it takes you to do certain things. Scheduling a meeting can take hours over the course of a week. Writing, tweaking your presentations, meetings, unbelievable, especially for nonprofits. Sorry, not personal, but you got to factor that in. And I actually worked for Nestle once, and they said, we are terrible clients and we're going to meet you to death. So just please charge us accordingly. Again, I took it for the money and I knew that was why, but bless them for paying attention to that. It takes a lot of the pain out of the wear and tear if you've got a pain in the ass tax. And ask for the right kinds of help. Seriously, ask for help. So how many of your lions do you need to sell per month to make your numbers? Lions also being products. And I've told you this. So I needed 2 groups. Oh yeah, my prices did go up. 2 groups. Anyway, 1 night per month to survive. And if I did 4 nights per month, I could thrive. So it was very motivating to me to be able to know where I was on the spectrum of, am I going to be able to cover my bills plus? Keep it small, keep it all. I'd be very wary of hiring people. There's a great weight that comes from being responsible for somebody else's mortgage. I do contract always, even my director of sanity for 15 years, contract every month. Partners, yeah, up to you, but I've been way happier working myself alone with a satellite of people who do very specific things for me. Otherwise, it's, my dog ate my homework. Nobody likes to babysit. I don't like to babysit, but I have seen this a million times over with companies that have gotten really big, and the owners were just like, I'm miserable, and pulled it right back down. That's a whole other video, but I believe this to be true. Become known for your best work. What can you put out there? What evidence can you create, I guess, that illustrates your best work? Make sure you have a brief, your ideal gig and your ideal client, and make sure you charge accordingly. Defining your North Stars. If you need a bio break, I can pause me. So your image and your brand anchors, look and feel. We want to know what the look and feel of your brand and your definition of success. So what do you want to have happen? And how will you know when you get there? I once had I always had vision boards because I believe in it. But I had a picture of a very sparkly watch. And my mother said, "What's up with that?" I said, "Oh, when I make enough money, I'm going to get one of those." She said, "Oh, okay, each his own." She said, "My definition of success is not having to wear a watch." To which I was like, "Touche, mama, touche. You're not wrong." So think about it. It's easy to think of I want to be debt free, or I want a boat. But think about how you want to spend your time. I did a vision board early days. And I was like, I don't want to work 80 hours a week like I have been at the agency. I need to be able to design my life that works for me. So I pulled these pictures emotionally, just kind of gravitated toward them and said, yes, yes, yes. And then I had to think about what they actually meant. Do I love croissants? Of course I do. Do I love breakfast in bed? Of course I do. But that's not really, I was like, that isn't it. That isn't it. It's really that I enjoy my mornings. I enjoy leisurely mornings and not having to be anywhere, at least till 10 o'clock. Even working at home. I will have them before a 10 a.m. meeting if I'm getting paid for it. And if I've asked for later and it could not be accommodated, but most of the time it can be accommodated. It just makes me happier. I'm happy to work to 8 p.m. Not a problem. I want my mornings. I hate meetings. So I know this about me. It's my kryptonite. And I will say to clients, please be surgical with my time and keep me out of as many meetings as possible. If it can be an email, make it an email, but let's agree to everything up front that we can and not be knee jerk. I need to make sure I have some elbow room in my life. I like huge dogs. And yeah, I would love a driver. And then Uber showed up. So I've been doing this for a long time. And I once said, God, it'd be so nice if I used to drive to clients' offices, right? And if I had to find parking in downtown Portland, oh my God. So I was like, God, it'd be just so nice if they could just drop me off. I go have my meeting, I come back out, I get back in the car and go. Like if I didn't have to deal with the car and parking part, I would have enjoyed it much, much more. And God, I love Zooming now, but Uber solved it. So I essentially have a driver. Know if your units of sale, know if it's a job or a hobby. I used to play this with my daughter when she was little. She was like, what do you want to be? A horse trainer. Hobby. Want to be, this or this or this or and so it was because sometimes if you do your hobby for a living, it takes all the fun out of it. But know if you need to make a living from it or you want to make a living from it. No, so I wanted to be an author. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to write it for my sisters. I have a lot of sisters and they take my advice on their time, but I really wanted to help them. So I was like, I'm going to write it down and they can get to it when they get to it. And I got stuck. And a dear friend of mine said, well, what do you want to have happen? Because, friends, take your advice and give it back to you. Do you want to make a living from it? Do you want people to read it and use it? Or do you just want to get it off your chest? And I was like, I just want to get it off my chest. And then poof, no problem. And this is, if you need help with kind of, if you've got too many options and you want to pull a filter around them and say, which is a job and which is a hobby, I would watch Simon Sinek's Know Your Why. Mel Robbins is the 5-second rule. Fabulous. There's great people in this world. Mel Robbins, Simon Sinek are amazing. So if you don't follow them, I would start feeding your brain with their words of wisdom. Tim Ferriss, also love him. So define success. Again, this is, I want to eat sushi several times a month. I want to sleep in. I want to not have to be anywhere until 10 a.m. So if you had what you're seeking in terms of clients and the money coming in, how do you want to spend your time? And if you want to do a time map, by all means, how do you currently spend your life or your day? And then how ideally would you spend your day? And find those 10-degree shifts. Just to remind you, cherry picking is a word that I love. I love to cherry pick jobs. I want to do this piece of it. Can I just do that piece of it? And make sure you don't just focus on the money. It's easy to do because because they're measurable. And I think, it's a requirement to pay bills, but that's the beginning. It's just step one. So you got to know what makes you tick, and you got to know how you want things to be different than they are today, if you do, or what do you love about where you are, and what's the next action that you can take. So these are things that are going to help you design an ideal life and business together. This is a flywheel. This is a framework that, they're mandalas, they're similar frameworks. One of the ideas is that it's not linear and it's not prioritized. Everything is inextricably intertwined. I kind of thought of it because my dad gave me this advice. And he said, your life is like a flywheel, a gyroscope. And if it's balanced, it can go on forever using very little energy. And that's ultimately what you want in your life. If you start getting a gimp in your flywheel, it's going to ka-thunk, 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 be really hard to get through and eventually stop. And it gets ka-thunky if you're too focused on one area, like finances or work. It's going to get clunky if you're not taking care of yourself. And I'll get into that. But the idea is to think about your life holistically and put key areas of heat, I'll call them, in these kind of big circles here. The middle is what you want ultimately to have happen, how you want to feel, assuming you've got the money that you want and you're doing the kind of work that you want. And then we have these outer rungs or next actions and litmus tests. How will you know when you get there? Give you some examples. So this is in your packet, so don't panic, but it's exactly what I just said. And again, this was my flywheel, and this was ages ago. I've done it a couple of times. Most of them stay the same, but it changes sometimes. Career, I love what I do. So it is first and foremost for me, but I know I need to get help. I want to have fewer jobs and more money, and I want to have fewer meetings. And so then how will I know? And we'll get there. I needed to make time for myself. I got to organize or I'll lose my mind. And that's not a natural thing. It's learned, but the more efficient I am, the more creative I am. I need to make sure I have time to walk the dogs. And morning pages. Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. One of the things that stuck with me and has for years was just the power of writing things longhand, but writing them longhand first thing in the morning, before your editor has woken up, before the bells are going off, before you're late for something. And just brain dump, everything that's kind of taken up your RAM. And it's very powerful. And I don't do it all the time, but I know when I need to do it. And it's always been a great solution. I have creativity goals. I wanted to get published. I did. I want to write another book. So that's changed now. I want to be able to write every day. Morning is my best writing time, even though I prefer to sleep in. If I can sit down at my desk uninterrupted with a cup of coffee and the dog sleeping at my feet, that's my happy place. And I paint. So want to make time for that. Financial goals. I want to be able to save. I want to be able to travel and be debt free. I have family goals. I want to make sure we have dinner together, that we make new traditions. I don't want a morning zoo. I don't have children at home anymore, so not a problem. But that was my my wish, my litmus test, if you will, for whether I was winning at this. I had friend goals, image goals. I want to make sure my brand was refreshed. This was pre-COVID. I wanted to dress better, and ship it, put it out there. Health goals, but ultimately a life that feels light, warm, secure, playful, and electrified with possibility. It's just where I was at that time, but I don't disagree with it. I want to do these things. I want to say no to things that aren't lions, to not have meetings I'm not paid for, and none before 10 a.m., and rid myself of all energetic vampires. So if something is emotionally expensive, got to drop that sandbag. And I want to make sure I can do things that make my heart sing every day, because a happy leader is a good leader. And if you were a car, you would make sure that the tires were filled and the oil was changed and it was running smoothly. Guess what? Your body and mind are your car, and that's how you are going to survive or thrive. So take care of it. And part of that is taking care of your energy. Know the things that lift you up, know the things that suck you dry, and design accordingly. So if you pull all those litmus tests forward, that's what success is going to look like in real life. Having dinner together, having couple time, painting every day, right? And then you're going to list out next actions. What's your to-do list that needs to be tackled? And what this is what's the next action you can take on any one of these things? Sit down and write a title. Get up half an hour earlier. Ask if they're going to pay for me for the meeting or if I can bail. So all of these kind of have a, decide where I want to go. All of these kind of have a one next action. So we're going to list those out here. And it flies in the face of do one thing till it's done. This is just, what are all the little 10-degree shifts of things that I can pepper in my downtime that's going to move my life forward and make that flywheel spin in a balanced way. So again, these are my examples if they're helpful. I needed to get help with my social media. Hate it. Content. I needed someone to organize. I needed a publisher. I needed to call a professional organizer, which I did, and it changed my life because she helped me with systems that I couldn't see. And she took away all the stuff. Like I don't want to throw that out. And one day I'll have a yard sale. She's like, nope, I'm going to take it and I'm going to donate it and we're going to write it off, or I'm taking it to a women's shelter or whatever it is. Reading and watching Super Nanny and Cesar Millan. Oh, I spelled his name wrong. Sorry, Cesar. It's foundational for the work that I do. And I get ideas by watching how Super Nanny manages to transform the dynamic of a family. And Cesar transforms the dynamic of owners and their dogs. So it's not really ever the dog and it's not really ever the kid. It's how do you manage the environment to get them to do what you want them to do is exactly leadership. Wanted to book a family cooking class, did that, tick, tick, tick. But again, it's putting it into words and actions so that you know if you've done it and you know if you haven't done it. Delegate, block out time, all of these things. Even if all of these. Did them, highly recommend it, wouldn't take any of them back. Defragging my calendar, I do regularly. What can I let go of? What can I say no to? What can I condense? So time blocking is the trend now, but it was defrag in my world. So brand you is your way of going. So I ride horses, and that's just a term that they use. Are they skitsy? Are they stilted? What's your way of going? So that's how you behave. It's how you speak. It's how you carry yourself. It's what you wear. It's what you care about. It's what you ask for, but it's what you put up with. And it's a sum of your expressions. Your expressions being the written words that you put out into the world, your topics and cadence if you speak. It is also how you show up. I had a quick example. My very first agency job, Stan Richards, I've talked about him a lot. He was transformative in my life. But the dress code at the time was you had to dress like you were asking a bank for $1 million loan, because we were essentially asking clients for $1 million. So I could not wear pants as a woman. I also had long dark hair, but it's a different story. And I was like, how come I have to wear a suit and heels and hose in Dallas, which should be illegal? And these creative guys get to wear jeans. Like, I want to wear jeans to meetings. How come I can't do that? And so this was the first time I was like, how do I want to show up? Can my reports be less researchy, Lynette, and be more creative strategist, Lynette? Yes. Could my clothes? Yes. So I wore thumb rings to remind myself to be a little bolder in how I wrote and presented information. I painted my toenails blue so that when I took a shower in the morning, I was like, oh yeah, I need to not be the backroom person. I need to be the person who shows up in jeans. So, design accordingly. I would love it if you would do this. What you think your strengths are may or may not line up with what other people think your strengths are. So ideally, I would love for you to text people, 3 people right now, and ask them, say, I'm in a workshop. We need a few people who know me well to describe me using only 3 words. Think about my style as well as my character, and please be honest. So do it, get them back, but decide how you feel about them. Amplify the ones that you love and are proud of, redirect those you don't want as part of your brand. Find out, where that perception came from, if you need to. So yeah, there's sources of perceptions. It's kind of, why do you think I'm that? And is that a good thing or a bad thing? Accept the bad, accept the good, but know that you can turn the dials. It's kind of like you just lay it out there. People used to tell me they were afraid to get their cards read, the tarot cards. And I was like, why? They said, I don't want them to tell me this. And I'm like, it's not a for sure forecast. And it's not going to make something happen. It's the opposite. It's actually laying out a potential scenario that you can decide if you want to lean into or if you want to make a left turn. I got others, but design according. If this is helpful, I find, 3 words, you should do this. Find 3 words on here that describe how you want to come across, words you want people to use when describing you after working with you or meeting you. Again, pause when you need this, or you can print them out. But you get 3 and only 3. And then the part of this is unpacking. It's twofold. It's unpacking, how would someone know that I was a maverick without me telling them? Is it what I say? Is it what I do? Is it how I dress? How would someone know? And then laddering up, what's a poster child for all 3 of those words together? We'll play. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Stop it. Finding words that describe your creative self. Make sure you have one of those. Use a word describing your strategic self. So this is, creative people are blank, 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 blank. Strategic people are blank, 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 blank. Sales people are blank, 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 blank. Good words that you would want for your brand. Take the words that people have texted you. Take the words that you just did that you want to describe your ideal self and put them in these lists. And then try them on like a coat for a day, right? So we're going to pick them now, but you can ladder them up. You can change them. So find one word that describes your creative self. Find one word that describes your strategic self, and one word that describes your sales self. If you don't feel confident in any of these, get a book. I've learned almost everything in my life from reading books and talking to people and, man on the street. But man, if you can read, you can cook. Everything's out there. So, and I've got examples and I've got a reading list. So if you need ideas, I like quick reads. So promise I'm not going to give you something super dense. There's no War and Peace in this industry, at least not in my bookshelf. Finding, like I said, that example of all three of your words living together. Find it's a poster child. So this is a brand sort exercise. Is there a brand out in the world that captures your ideal three words? And to be honest, I don't remember what my ideal three words were. I know it was like youthful, sophisticated, and brilliant. I think what it was. And Absolute Vodka was my poster child, because at the time they were doing things with, artists and art. And I felt like this brand was very premium, but could show up in a jean jacket and be served on a white tablecloth without shame. So that was kind of the dance I wanted to dance, but it doesn't have to be just these brands. Find a brand out there that exemplifies your North Star. Say they're playing where I want to play. If you need to smash it up, you can. I think at one point I was Dr. Seuss meets Einstein, and that helped me. And then I was like, that's not quite right. I'm going to unpack it. What am I trying to? There was a playfulness, a youthfulness. There was a brilliance in there, but then there was also a missing piece. So this is a back and forth exercise. If you find the brand, you'll find the words. Take the words, try to find the brand, and see where your paths meet in the middle. You can find a famous person, living or dead, to be your poster child. I got my guys. I got my gals. And it's, what subjective, what you think these people represent. But in your mind, it's going to be a staple, a thought, a complex thought to your brain to say, how would Beyonce write this report? How would she show up for this meeting? My poster child is actually Anthony Bourdain. We'll have a moment. I think he was noble. I think he was kind and fierce. So one day I'll show you my tattoos, but one's don't be a doormat, the others don't be an asshole. So find your poster child. Doesn't have to be these are just examples. But what do you gravitate toward in your guts, in your soul? And then unpack it. So not here, we're playing here. So again, how would someone know you were these things without you having to tell them? Demonstrate. Brands always demonstrate as opposed to tell. Good brands. And then we're going to unpack, what do you believe to be true about what makes you tick? What do you need in order to be your best self? So we're going to write a manifesto, which is this poetically romantic piece. It's designed to express yourself and get others to fall in love with you. It's also an ask. So it's a filter and a lure. It's an ask for what you need more of. So your goal is to write a paragraph. You can share it or you can not share it. I'll give you examples, but this is an example of a manifesto that I found in a martini bar, and I didn't think I liked martinis at the time. And I read this on a little table tent. It said, I'm not talking gin splashed over ice. I'm talking the elegance of Fred Astaire in a glass, fire and ice, pure liquid crystal, insight and comfort, redemption and absolution, and a shared savor of solitude. I'm talking a martini. And of course I ordered a martini and I was super happy. But this is a skill. Again, this is not what, it's not gin splashed over ice. That's what it makes. This is what it's really selling. Do you remember we talked about that for a minute? What is the yaya? What's the thing about it that makes it magnetic? I will give you a quick example. I've done these workshops for ages. And when I lived in Bend, I did the Bend Design Conference a couple of years, and I did a workshop around writing the manifesto. And this lady said, she raised her hand after we took a stab at it, and she said, "I am so confused." She's like, "I am a commercial real estate agent, and I wrote this manifesto, and it's all about horses. I don't ride horses. I don't own horses. I don't even think I like horses. So can you explain this to me?" And I said, "No, I can't. It doesn't have anything to do with me." I said, "What I need you to do, though, is just park it and pay attention. But tell me out loud what you're looking for." And she said, "Okay, I'm a commercial real estate agent. I want to get out of that business, but I need to make as much money as I'm making doing that while living in Bend and working from home." And she said, "Crazy, right? Crazy." And I said, "Well, give it a minute and circle back with me. I want to know what happens." And so I was doing another workshop in Bend, I don't know, maybe 2 months later. And she came to the same hotel. I was giving it in the same room. And she's like, "I just have to tell you the craziest thing happened." I'm like, "I love crazy things. Tell me." And she said, "Well, I was looking at this and my manifesto, and then I forgot about it, as you do." And she said, "This email came into my inbox, and it was about an equine magazine. And normally I would have just, not for me. But because this was in the back of my head, she was like, 'Equine magazine, what is that about?' Click. She said it was to be an editor for an equestrian magazine that would pay her as much money as she was making, who did not require her to move from Bend or work out of her house. Everything she wanted, she got." And she was like, "I even told them, I don't like horses. I don't ride horses. I don't own horses." And they go, "We don't care. Can you edit? Can you write? Can you put this together? Can you manage?" And she made the switch and she was blissfully happy. And she said, "If I hadn't written that out, I never would have paid attention." So this is just one way. Think of it as one way for your subconscious to educate you on what you might be needing. This is a manifesto that I wrote a million years ago I was applying at Wyden Kennedy. And they said, "We have your resume. We have an accounting of your time. We know what you worked on. We know where you've been. We want to know more about you so that we'll know if you are a good fit or not." So I went to I was in LA at the time at a conference, and I went to the Ivy and I sat at a white tablecloth table outside. And I had gone to the stationery store and got 2 perfectly square, white, gorgeous pieces of paper and a Sharpie. I had 1 practice page, and then I had to nail it on paper. And I had a nice glass of wine. It was a beautiful day. I had elevated my thinking and my tools, which is all you can do. And I went after it. I said, "This is about me." And I wrote it thinking about how it would explain why I love what I do in terms of solving problems, communications, brands, helping people, why I'm good at it, and what I want more of. So I was trying to think in terms of pithy quotes, bumper stickers, if you will. But these are all true. And I don't know if I ever sat down and said, "Yeah, I do breathe life into what ifs and why nots." And people do tell me secrets willingly. God help me. It's why I don't ride the bus. I'll get their life story. I am a pleasure pig. So I just kind of put myself out there. It is a filter. I've seen jobs come through and have been like, Does this person match this person? No, it's probably not right for me. It's also a lure for what feeds you. So I have sent it to some companies as part of a resume, and they've been like, thanks, no. And I'm like, well, if you can't handle me there, you can't handle me here. I've also had some companies say, God, if you had written it in crayon, it would have been even better. And I was like, yes. So this is important to do. Get yourself in an inspirational place where you have a moment to think. Get yourself a glass of something nummy and have at it. So then we're going to think about this higher order common thread benefit. So now we're starting to play into brand. So what benefits do your units of sale share? I provide insight, it provides spark, it provides problem solving. What's in it for them? Maybe illuminating a path, maybe momentum moving forward, maybe transformation led into gold. And if that's the case, then what's my role? I'm a translator. I translate from business to creative. I'm also a change agent, but I really want to be a wizard. And where could I express it? Could be in my brand name, my logo, my title, my materials. So these are all questions I need you to answer. First, what is it that you do for them? And then how can it be expressed? And if you have your poster child, how would your poster child feel about these benefits? Would they push it a little more? Are they, how about a left-hand turn there? Hopefully your poster child gives you confidence. And I guess an easy springboard to kind of find your voice. Your voice 2 rungs above where you are, unless you're crushing it right now, but okay then. And defining your role, I had to do this for my daughter's second grade a long time ago, second grade class career day. And I'm like, how do you explain strategist, a brand strategist, a company coach to 7-year-olds? So I ended up with Lucy from Peanuts, and I had to explain Lucy and Peanuts. But the idea of people coming to you, to me, to solve their problems, give advice. That's kind of me. I tell people what to do. I tell people what I would do if it was my money. Find a title, that a job description that really defines your role in your ideal world. You don't necessarily have to use it, but what would it be? How do you describe what you do for companies in a title? So no one's going to give you permission to call yourself an artist. I asked myself that one day. I'm like, when do I get to, I paint and I write. Okay, but am I an artist? I don't know. Who says? So I created criteria. And I said, if I can sell something for more than $300 to someone other than my mother, I'm officially an artist. Et voila. But you have to decide how far you can push it, and who says that you can or can't have a certain title. You do. So unless it's legal, but you know what I mean. Creating a culture. So I'm going to put this in another video. You've got what you need in terms of setting the framework, fiscally, setting the framework for your life flywheel, and setting the framework for your brand. Come back to me for more.